A massive defeat tonight for Governor Polis's tax plan as voters also decide the future of school boards across the state.
Aurora is on track to re-elect its mayor, but first, I want to talk about this big statewide tax measure that would have reduced Tabor refunds to offset some of the increase in property taxes. Democrats and the governor backed Prop HH, and it got demolished. It is losing by more than 20 points. This is an incredible repudiation of the Democrats' tax plan in a state where Democrats easily won statewide races by double-digit margins last year. All along, the governor has refused to say if he has a backup plan to deal with the coming spike in property taxes. 9 News political reporter Marshall Zellinger is along now from the state capitol. And Marshall, Democrats single-handedly control state government, so it's up to them if any property tax relief comes out of that place.
Right, and do not be fooled. There can be property tax relief if the people who work here at the state capitol, state lawmakers, choose to provide it without needing your voter approval, because there are many parts of Prop HH that did not need your voter approval. We're not hearing what the possible backup plans are tonight because Democratic Governor Jared Polis is in Wyoming at the Western Governors Association and declined my request for a Zoom interview. Democratic Senate President Steve Fenberg was supposed to eventually go to the watch party where I was at a little earlier. He didn't show up tonight, but put out a statement as part of the Yes on HH that said it was far-right misinformation that killed Prop HH. I asked the primary opposition to No on HH, Michael Fields, what he thought killed the ballot measure.
Ultimately, this wasn't close. People, once they learned about it, understood that this wasn't real property tax relief, that this would have impacted Tabor refunds. They want very simple, plain property tax relief. The governor needs to call a special session and make sure that happens soon.
There are parts of Prop HH that lawmakers can do through legislation. That includes minimizing the property tax increases we're going to face next year. It includes the senior tax property tax exemption. If lawmakers want seniors to be able to take it to a new home, that can be done through legislation. And the idea of giving everyone the same dollar amount in equal Tabor refunds, that was going to happen if Prop HH passed, but since it failed, that's not happening. That could also change if lawmakers wanted to. The only thing that can't be done by lawmakers alone would be to raise the state revenue cap, meaning the state could keep and spend more money, which would require some of your Tabor refund money. That is essentially why Prop HH was on the ballot to begin with, because none of the other parts needed your voter approval, Kyle and Kim.
And Marshall, the fact that things are so chaotic and so uncertain tonight for Coloradans is because they refused to answer your questions all along through this process of what the backup plan was if voters said no to Prop HH, and they said no by 20-something points.
I went back and forth on this, that it was either dishonest or misleading that I wasn't being told there's a backup plan. But I went back and forth because it's like, if you say there's a backup plan, you're encouraging voters that might support it. Oh, well, maybe there's something better, I'm going to vote no instead. But also, is it disingenuous to say I really have no backup plan? Because should we be expecting a news conference tomorrow that says, okay, here's plan B? Perhaps, and if that doesn't happen, maybe there really was no plan B.
Yeah.
All right, Governor's still silent on this tonight and out of state. Marshall, thank you. Denver voters are ready for some new voices on the school board. 3 reformers are poised to win races, ousting 2 union-supported incumbents in the process. In the citywide at-large race, former East High principal John Youngquist is easily beating former mayoral candidate and former CEO of the now bankrupt Tattered Cover Bookstores, Kwame Spearman. Spearman was backed by the teachers union. Youngquist was supported by Mayor Mike Johnston. Public safety was at the forefront of this race as the Denver School Board, which is entirely composed of teachers union-backed candidates, had defended its policy that allows students charged with violent crimes like attempted murder to come back to class. We asked Youngquist after his win tonight if he would support a recall against other union-backed board members. He said that should be up to voters. He wants to focus on students and safety.
Making certain that in the first 3 months, we understand distinctly the work that needs to be done with safety so that students and parents are confident that they're safe at school and that staff members are confident as well.
School board races outside Denver tend to split along different ideological lines than the DPS races. The Colorado Republican Party is at its weakest point statewide in nearly a century. So party leaders have come right out and said that winning nonpartisan school board races is how Republicans make a comeback. That often means a focus on so-called culture war issues like book bans, restrictions on LGBTQ students, and changing how American history is taught. 9 News reporter Jennifer Meckles has been covering that and tracking these school board races. Jenny?
Yeah, we're tracking about 10 of these races across the state tonight, and we are seeing the conservative candidates fall. And instead, the more left-leaning teachers union-backed candidates right now are in the lead. Adams 12, Jeffco, Cherry Creek, Greeley Evans, Pooter, Thompson, all those boards at this hour, they're not moving toward the right. We're also seeing something very interesting in two counties that already lean very red. Douglas County, just 2 years ago, saw a conservative takeover that pushed back against mask mandates and the district's equity policy. Remember, they also fired Superintendent Corey Wise without cause. Well, tonight, the three candidates who campaigned together to challenge that board, the three candidates that Corey Wise wrote an op-ed saying he endorses in this election, those candidates are in the lead tonight. We're seeing a similar story in Woodland Park, a small community in Teller County west of Colorado Springs, where this year the school board was the first in the entire country to approve a controversial set of conservative social studies standards, something even the state school board rejected. That board pulled back some mental health supports for students, and eventually some 40% of district educators and social workers left. Tonight, a group of three candidates are running together to challenge the incumbents on that board, and right now, those challengers are still ahead. That's a very small community, Kyle. Those races are still very tight. We're talking like a couple of hundred votes, but still an interesting trend we're watching tonight.
Well, it's interesting. A thread between Denver and some of these small, very conservative counties is voters saying, indeed, you can go too far. All right, Jennifer Meckles, thank you.
Aurora Mayor Mike Hoffman is poised to win re-election tonight. He holds 55% of the vote, with his fellow council member and Democratic challenger Juan Marcano in at 37%. Tonight, Kaufman told us he wants to get his proposal to give Aurora's mayor more power back on the ballot in the next 2 years. He abandoned the push this year after it was revealed that he secretly funded and organized it. His plan would have allowed mayors to run for a third term. So we asked tonight, are you planning on that?
I think it's too early to tell whether I'd be running for a third term or not. The focus is going to be on the next 4 years.
When Kaufman was first elected in 2019, it was a narrow win in a 5-candidate race. Kaufman finished election night with an 8% lead over Democrat Omar Montgomery. He didn't declare victory until 9 days after that election.
So we look back at our big headline tonight, the governor's Prop HH tax plan going down. Because it was so complicated, it's difficult to tell why voters rejected it so enormously. Did they not like the complexity of it? Did they not like the fact that, frankly, it was deceptive? Did they not like the fact that it was trying to do so many things? Do people just love Tabor refunds? It's kind of tough to tell. Maybe it was a lot of things.
It could have been a combination. I do believe Marshall made some really informative reports over the last few weeks saying, if you don't understand it, why do you vote for it?
Yeah, and the messaging tonight, Democrats have been coming out criticizing one another, saying the messaging was a mess. They've now got to come together and figure out what they want to do on a go-forward basis, because as we said, they run state government. It's up to them.